is rapidly changing all of our lives. We know that. More and more millennial job seekers are turning towards the fields of IT and engineering. And as a result, financial institutions are left on the back burner of attracting new talent. This is according to a recent study done by Universum Global on the world's most attractive employers ranking for 2016. So to speak a little bit more about the relevance of these findings for South Africans, we're joined in studio by Jenali Skuse. She is the country manager of Universum South Africa. Good to have you on the program. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's just talk about Universum Global. What is it? I mean, obviously you're ranking the world's most attractive employers. So what are we looking at?
Well, we're essentially an employer branding organization, but every year we go out and we survey over 1.3 million talent around the world, asking them a range of questions about their career preferences and expectations, and included in that is which companies they'd most like to work for.
Yeah.
And then based on these responses from the research that we do, we compile a list of rankings from the 12 biggest economies called the world's most attractive employer rankings.
Okay, let's break it down now. So let's look at like the top five. What are the youth loving?
The youth are really loving the tech companies.
Yeah.
We're seeing the Googles, the Apples, the Microsofts of the world performing extremely well in the rankings. And we actually, as you mentioned earlier, seeing that to the detriment of certain other industries, like, for example, the financial services industry.
When we say financial services, I mean, what are we referring to? Are we talking about your everyday banking sector?
Generally, yeah, banking and other financial services providers such as insurance companies. Yeah.
Which is quite strange because, I mean, you look at some of our banks and technologically they're so progressive. I mean, I know, the bank that I'm with, it's every time, you look at the technology that they're putting in place, making our lives much easier, you'd think that the youth would love that and try and change it even more. What makes it so boring for them?
Well, I think the banks are just, they may be not responding to what young talent actually wants as much as tech companies. Tech companies are offering great work-life balance.
Okay.
They're offering the opportunity to work on amazing and innovative projects. They offer a creative and dynamic work environment. And not necessarily the banks, but companies in general, are not really listening to what talent wants and responding accordingly, I would say.
So what I'm understanding from you is not necessarily the content that's happening inside the building. It's the way that you're treated and the life that you're given while you're there. And
exactly.
That's the reality, is that the youth these days, they actually want a life and they don't want their work to be their life.
Exactly. They don't see work as a place you go to anymore. They see work as a thing you do. And they're really, looking for work that they can integrate into their lives. They don't see work in their lives as different. They really see them as integrated and as a seamless kind of process that they go through.
Okay. When we talk South Africa, you talk about the big companies like the Googles, the Apples, etc. But what about here in South Africa?
Well, in South Africa, we see a very different mix of organizations being the most attractive. We see a lot of the professional services firms as highly attractive because they're perceived as offering great training and development, high future earnings. And we also see that the state-owned enterprises are actually, and government departments are also very attractive. And the reason for this is threefold. They're perceived as offering great security and stability. They're perceived as offering great training and development. And they're also perceived as offering really great leadership and mobility opportunities.
Yeah, we've got on screen now, but people can actually see what we're dealing with here when it comes to the best and the worst companies. And it's, I see most of them, of course, being your IT companies, as you mentioned. But there in the middle of it, I see BMW as a car company.
Yeah, and remember, these are the world's most attractive employers, which is obviously different from
South Africa.
Yeah.
So these are the world's ones. So hopefully we can get the South African ones up if we do have those. But when we talk about something in terms of not attracting the young talent anymore, and if people, if the youth don't want to work for the banking, the insurance industries, as you're saying, what's going to happen to them? And they need to start changing, I imagine.
Well, I think they're going to have to just adapt and start becoming more responsive to what talent actually wants. If you think of organizations like Kodak, for example, or BlackBerry, they simply didn't respond to the needs of the markets and became obsolete very quickly. And it's exactly the same in the employer branding world. Companies need to really understand what talent wants in order to be able to offer them what's relevant to them.
Yeah, because that is the reality. You've just seen, it's quite incredible when you look at those huge, massive brands. that suddenly disappeared off the radar purely because they did not listen to what everybody wanted.
Exactly.
And I mean, you know, if you don't listen to your consumer, you're not going to survive. And if you're not listening to the youth, then you're certainly not going to survive. So, I mean, when you do these kind of rankings and surveys, how seriously do these companies actually take it?
Extremely seriously. I mean, that's why we as an organization exist, because, you know, organizations, they understand that talent is probably the biggest determinant of whether they manage to actually achieve their business objectives and stay relevant in the ever-changing world. Yeah. So this research is extremely important to them. And they do, a lot of companies that really do, you know, see talent as important, are using it to try to understand better what they could do to be more relevant.
Fantastic. Thanks for talking to us. If people want to see the full results, and I'm sure they want to really see with South Africa where we stand, obviously it's out on your website.
Yes,
where
go
can we see
to
it?
universumglobal.com, and then you'll be able to find the rankings for all the different markets around the world there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Very interesting to see what the youth are wanting. Jenali Skuse, she's the country manager of Universum South Africa. Get onto the website and you can have a look and see what the world's most attractive employers are ranking for 2016. But without a doubt, it's technology companies that are really, really taking those top spots. So let's take a